In this tutorial video, I'm going to teach you how to use silver stain. That's the yellow stain that stains glass yellow, and that's where the term stained glass comes from. What its history is, how to mix the pigment, how to apply it to glass. All that good stuff is coming right up. Hello and welcome to my studio. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. It is fantastic to see you. And if you're new to the channel, I make inspirational videos and tutorials on all things stained glass, from designing through to painting, through to making stained glass windows. I would encourage you to subscribe because I make videos on a very regular basis on all topics. And today is a tutorial dedicated to silver stain. I get questions from creatives all over the world on all sorts of topics, things like how to use enamels, how to do leading well, how to paint on glass, and a lot of questions on how to use silver stain. So this is a how-to video on how to mix the pigment, how to apply it to glass. And stay to the end of this video for a special tip on how to reuse silver stain and save money in the process. Silver stain is quite an expensive item to buy, and if you can reuse it, that is well worth knowing. So let's start at the beginning with a little history on when staining of glass first appeared. And in order to find that out, come with me to a very special place where we're making an appointment to see the doctor. This is Ely Cathedral in Cambridgeshire, which is the most incredible cathedral. I've got the privilege of working in here several times a year. I teach glass painting courses. There are many other courses available on fusing and making leaded windows. Of course, we're in the middle of lockdown here in the UK, so there are fewer people in the cathedral than normal, and we have to wear face masks, etc. in order to speak with one another. But it is a fabulous building, and it houses the Stained Glass Museum, which is the most incredible museum of stained glass. It spans 1,000 years of stained glass, from medieval glass through to modern glass. It's also got this brilliant gift shop, and it's got a wonderful collection of books. You can find loads and loads of books on stained glass. It also hosts a variety of exhibitions throughout the year from contemporary glass artists in the UK showing their work, and it's just a great resource. And our appointment today is with Dr. Jasmine Allen, Director and Curator of Ely Cathedral Stained Glass Museum, who will give us her expert advice on when silver stain was first used.
My name is Jasmine Allen and I'm Director and Curator of the Stained Glass Museum, an extraordinary collection with a gallery located inside the magnificent Ely Cathedral. We have an amazing collection of stained glass from all across the UK, Europe and the USA, which spans from the medieval to the modern period. Do come and visit us. We're currently open Tuesday to Saturday, and you can find out more on our website, www.stainedglassmuseum.com. If you feel moved to donate and help us keep the collection going, growing and sharing it with all visitors from around the world, please do so. So at the turn of the 14th century, around 1308, 1309, it depends which academic you talk to, silver stain seems to have been invented. And this enabled the first coloured stain onto clear glass. And you can see it profusely used in this panel. So silver stain is a silver compound, a silver nitrate or a sulfate, that when applied to the back of clear glass and fired in a kiln, stained it. So the colour of the silver infiltrates into the glass and stains it. And if you look at the head of the Virgin Mary in this 14th century panel made just a few decades after the discovery of silver stain, you can see how it has been used to colour the Virgin's hair. So following the lead lines, this is one piece of clear glass, painted with the black pigment and also with silver stain to the back on either side, which has given the golden hair of the Virgin. By the 15th century, a new type of smaller decoration entirely executed in paint and stain was very popular. These stained glass roundels or unipar type panels were often part of a series, and were very popular and slightly cheaper to buy. These two panels here, depicting two orders of the angels, the virtues and the principalities, would have been part of a set of 12. And you can see that though they've been beautifully painted with the pigment, it's the silver stain that draws our eye in and makes them radiant and makes us think about stained glass. This very late Victorian panel depicting the May Queen shows how silver stain was still extensively used in the period way after the Reformation during the Victorian and 20th centuries. Silver stain is used extensively here with the glass paint to create this very delicate, beautiful portrait of the May Queen and the ceremony to commemorate spring. This very modern panel by Albinas Elskus shows how silver stain continues to be used today. You can see it extensively in the fruit here, in this panel which is named Metamorphosis. Here Elskus has used a few layers of stain to create this beautiful burnished orange effect around the pieces of fruit. Some applied very carefully and some applied more freely.
Thank you very much to Dr. Jasmine Allen for giving us a really useful introduction to how stained glass started using silver stain and how we still use the same silver stain to this very day. So let's get down to the tutorial of how we use silver stain, starting with all of the kit that we need to make it happen. The pieces of equipment that we need to start are obviously our silver stain, and today we're using a Reusch silver stain, which is a yellow silver stain number 3, which is a medium grade yellow silver stain. We also need a palette. I'm using a glass palette with stops underneath, which help to keep the palette cool when you're actually working with it. A palette knife as well, which is specifically for yellow silver stain. Yellow silver stain is extremely corrosive, and so don't use your best knives, don't use your best brushes, because it does corrode brushes and it corrodes metal even when you're trying your best to keep it clean. You could also use a glass muller. It's not essential, but it is helpful when grinding down the yellow silver stain. In addition to that, you will need a water supply. I often use a diffuser like this, which is just regular tap water. Really useful because you can moderate the amount of water that you use. A couple of glass jars like this for putting over the glass pigment to keep it dust free, and a trusted bridge. The bridge is just made of wood, easily enough made, but also very helpful. In addition to that, it's useful to have a small badger brush, but not essential. You will also need a large badger brush. And don't use your best one, again, because the yellow silver stain is very corrosive. I'm using an old badger brush, looking very sorry for itself with some of the bristles missing. And another essential piece of kit you will need is a good quality dust filtration mask with a filter P3, which is for toxic dust and particles. Really important because all of the paints that we use are toxic. So we mix our stain in the same way that we mix our pigment. It is a slightly different color because it is made with a pipe clay, which is the carrying agent holding the silver nitrate. Spend a few moments grinding it down because it can be quite gritty. If you reuse silver stain without firing it, it can be extremely gritty. So using something like a glass muller here is very helpful to grind that pigment down. You want it to be as smooth as possible before you add the medium to make it into a paint. And the medium we'll be using at the moment is water. Water is a great go-to medium for mixing both our vitreous paints, our enamels, and our yellow silver stains. So just mix it up into a toothpaste-like consistency, and once it's well ground down, spend a few moments just grinding it down. Put a cover over it to stop dust and debris getting in, and also clean your tools because it is so important to try and get that silver stain back off metalwork. Another medium you can use is propylene glycol, which is a very useful medium to use. It has oil-like properties. Propylene glycol is a water-soluble and acetone-soluble medium, which is tremendous to use with all of our paints. We can use it with stains, we can use it with vitreous paints and enamels. First brought to my attention by the wonderful efforts of Deborah Coombs, who's a contemporary glass artist based in America. I'm going to leave links to Deborah's website. She shared her discovery with everyone, and it's now being used regularly as a tremendous medium for mixing paints with glass. And we will mix it up now just to show you how it's working. Use an airtight container, a kiln or jar, add a small amount of yellow stain to it, and then with a pipette add some propylene glycol, and just add enough to make it into a nice gloopy painterly mixture. You can always add more to it than you think you need and strain it off at a later date, but what we want to do is create a suspension of propylene glycol and yellow silver stain. Put the lid on and then let it sit for 24 hours. It's better to let it sit and slake in the compound in order to make it nice and usable in 24 hours time. So I'm going to cut one piece of glass into two sections and turn one section over to illustrate the fact that float glass has got a tin side and a non-tin side. And the tin side is used during the manufacture of glass to float molten glass on a bed of molten tin, and that creates a nice flat surface. But it is affecting the yellow silver stain, so it's important to know which side has the tin side and which is the plain side. You can do that by using a UV light, which I'll show you now. Commercially available portable UV lamps will help you decide which is the tin side, looking at the light through the glass. If the glass is cloudy, that is the tin side, or if the glass is clear, that is the non-tin side. Very difficult to see using the camera today, but that's how you determine the difference. And we're just going to do a sample panel where we are putting a little bit of yellow silver stain on both sides of the glass, badgering it down to get a nice even mixture so we can make it as kind of regular and similar a sample as we possibly can. And so we're going to mark up the glass with letter A and letter B so that we know when it comes back out the kiln what is one side of the glass and what is the other side of the glass. It'll be interesting to see how much of a difference that tin surface makes to the yellow silver stain. As a resist, you can use sticky plastic like this, which is found in most hardware stores. A little tip is to heat the glass before you apply it. It makes the glue more resilient and it sticks better to the glass. So stick your sticky plastic down, your transparent plastic down. I often just use a credit card or something like that to get a nice bubble-free finish. And then you can use that as a resist to cut and create interesting shapes. So draw your shapes out, whatever they might be. In this case, we're just doing some sort of semi-abstract flower shapes, and then cut that out of the plastic to create a stencil. And that stencil is what we'll use to paint. You can use this technique for creating lots of interesting shapes in yellow silver stain. If you don't want to paint them on directly, you can paint them on using a resist such as this, and you get some really nice interesting sort of painterly effects, and I like that kind of abstracted use of paint where you can do splatters and things like that and make it quite painterly. Once the stain has dried, take the sticky plastic back off, and then you have the option of putting more texture on with things like combs. Combs are very good for working sort of almost like a woodcut effect into pigment. It's harder to do with yellow silver stain because it sticks to the glass more profoundly than vitreous paints do, and it's actually quite hard to work with. So 24 hours have passed and the stain has slaked well in the propylene glycol. And as you can see, it's nice and syrupy and it's extremely easy to work with. It's a very soft feeling paint and it works in a better way, I think, than water. It's easier to apply to glass and there are no brush strokes because it's suspended in this sort of oil-based, well, oil-like medium. It also blends extremely well. So if you use your badger brush, your staining badger brush, you can see that it blends from very pale to rich in an easy, effortless way. So let's prepare our kiln bed. I tend to use calcium carbonate. You can also use kiln paper, but calcium carbonate is really useful if you agitate it and then smooth it down with a glass plate like this. You can use the whiting several times. Eventually you'll have to change it because it gets contaminated. Firing at 620 degrees centigrade. Now I use a timer. A little pro tip here, fire it exactly for 2 minutes, and when it reaches its temperature at 620 degrees, turn the kiln off, and that is what I find gets the best results. So here is the propylene glycol blended version. You can see it goes from very pale to clear. Here is the textured glass. Now this is an interesting one. This is the two sides of that single piece of glass. You can see the difference in stain. The untinned side A and the tinned side B. The tinning does take stain a lot easier. Here's that little traditional head that I've painted with propylene glycol. Now the effects are fantastic. I've used staining twice on here to create a richer stain on the second firing. I've also used some combing effects here. I just love this technique. It's just such a lovely way of working, and it's very kind of painterly. So here's a little example of a painted fox's head, just showing you how the yellow silver stain can actually work to make the paint slightly richer. So that red umber color has been made richer with yellow stain on the back, so you can liven up a lot of warm paints with a little bit of yellow stain. You'll also change things like bistre brown, so you've got a skull here painted in bistre brown, and if you put yellow silver stain over the top, you can see that it changes the color from this sort of chocolatey brown to a richer color, and it's lovely to sort of play with using silver stain with other colors. Little dandelion made entirely with silver stain, so there's nothing else here except silver stain applied directly to the glass, and it's a great effect. Now, a couple of books that I would really recommend to you. The first is Silver Stain by Kenneth Leap. Now, he is an American artist. I've met him a couple of times. He's a great artist, and he's made this really comprehensive book that you can still buy. I'll put details in the links below as to how you can get it on silver stain. It's really comprehensive and well worth getting. This second book, The Art of Painting on Glass, is a marvelous textbook that is still available on Amazon. I will give you the links in the description below. Elskus. My copies got eaten by the dog, unfortunately. You can see in the corner there. As a big thank you to all of you who have stayed to the end of this video, here is that promised bonus tip to reuse silver stain. When the stain comes out of the kiln, there is a residue on the top surface. That is still active stain, so keep it. Scrape it off, put it into a jar, and you can reuse it time and time again, either to mix up new stain or you can use it as a wash of silver stain. It is still active. It's extremely useful to keep because it's expensive. Don't throw that residue away. So please subscribe to the channel for all the latest videos and leave comments and remarks. It's great to build up a community of fellow creatives, and we'll see you soon.